Dustin, good to see you. Big news. We're talking about three RMD changes for 2023. We're breaking down some key changes to those required minimum distribution rules that went into effect January 1st. And the first rule, Dustin, is that the starting age has increased again.
Yeah. So with the first Secure Act, those starting age at which you're required to take required minimum distributions, it increased for most from age 70 and a half to age 72. With this most recent Secure Act passed in December, that starting age for those born after 1950 is now age 73. And as this law is fully implemented, that may be increased for some all the way up to age 75.
Okay.
Some people might be able to defer the age at which they thought they're going to have to start taking required minimum distributions, but unfortunately, in those accounts, they're still going to be subject to the control of the federal government telling them when they're going to have to take how much money out.
Exactly. All right. The second big change here is that the penalties are lower. This kind of seems like good news, right? Because that was a pretty big penalty if you missed a payment.
Yeah. Well, most people are familiar with the penalty if you take an early withdrawal, it's 10%. Up until recently, the penalty if you missed a required minimum distribution was 50%.
Ouch.
They've now, with this most recent act, they've reduced that to 25%, which if I look at that, it's kind of like if someone, threatens to, someone tells me I'm going to stab you, but just a little bit, I'm still worried about that.
I know, right?
It doesn't give me much comfort, right?
Yeah. I like that analogy. That's funny.
Yeah.
All right. The next one is some changes to inherited accounts. And this is pretty complicated because there are separate rules for IRAs inherited before 2020 and those inherited after 2020.
Yeah. So what you should know, this is very complex and everyone's situation can be different. But for most non-spouse beneficiaries, it used to be the case that when they inherited those accounts, they could stretch the distribution of those accounts over their life expectancy. So they could benefit from that account for some time, benefit from the tax benefits over the course of their entire life. Well, there are some exceptions, but now typically non-spouse beneficiaries, they've got to distribute that account inside of 10 years.
Wow.
And one of the things, if you're planning to leave some portion of an IRA or any other tax deferred account to your heirs, one of the things you should be conscious of is most of the time when people inherit those accounts, they're inheriting those accounts in their 50s or 60s when their earning potential is highest and their tax liability couldn't be higher.
Mm-hmm.
And now those people, those non-spouse beneficiaries are going to be inheriting those accounts, not being able to take the accounts out slowly, but forced to take them out very quickly. And that can be like a ticking time bomb for your estate.
Right. Essentially, your legacy is losing a lot to taxes. That's incredible. So is there advice then for somebody who is nearing that RMD age or any steps they should be considering now?
Yeah, what this all says to me, it's yet just another reminder. I can't say this is right for everyone, but what I can say is now is the time for everyone to consider whether or not it makes sense converting your pre-tax traditional accounts like IRAs and 401ks to Roth accounts. Accounts where when distributions are made from those Roths, they're typically tax-free, and Roth IRAs don't have any RMD requirements. So there's a control feature.
Mm-hmm.
The distributions from Roth IRAs don't increase your provisional income, which means they don't, unlike IRAs and 401ks, distributions from Roth IRAs don't cause taxes on your Social Security to go up, don't cause your Medicare premiums to go up. Okay, they're a Roth IRA for your estate. It's not a tax problem when your heirs inherit it.
Mm-hmm.
So, some other things to consider right now. We've got historically record low tax rates right now. And those record low tax rates are set without intervention from the legislature to sunset inside of 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a really important time. Like I said, not right. I can't say it's right for everyone, but the time is right for everyone to consider whether or not it makes sense doing things like Roth conversions or some other tax moves to move pre-tax monies into into tax-free monies. And
Right.
finally, I would say for most people that have investment accounts, last year was a rough year. Those investments are probably down. That's yet another reason it makes sense to consider this. If you do a partial conversion or a conversion of any investment account, what better time to do it than not only when tax rates are at record lows, but you're paying taxes on a depressed value, which could recover tax-free at a later date.
Right. I love it when we can talk about the silver linings to the bad news with the markets not doing well last year.
It's an
Dustin, I think
opportunity.
that, yeah, it's an opportunity. Exactly. So having this conversation earlier rather than later, probably a good idea. What's the best way to get a hold of you with questions?
They can text a question to 830-476-2505 or reach out on the website to book a free chat at longlivemymoney.com.
All right. Dustin, thank you.
Thanks, Erin.